Bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue aux séances ordinaires du Conseil municipal de la ville de Westmount pour lundi le 3 février 2025. Welcome everybody to the regular municipal council meeting for the city of Westmount for Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Just before we begin with, I think we have some updates from around the table and from around the council. I would just like to give a bit of an update on the state of the world and how we feel it's going to affect us. Donc, la menace de l'administration Trump d'imposer des frais de douane additionnels sur certains produits canadiens suscite des inquiétudes légitimes parmi nos entreprises locales, nos commerçants et nos résidents et résidentes. Today's announcement of a 30-day delay before the imposition of these tariffs is certainly a positive sign, but it is only temporary relief. Our concerns remain. Cities will be on the front line of this threat were it to be carried out. These tariffs could have a significant impact on material prices and construction costs for the city of Westmount. We have already far exceeded inflation rates when it comes to construction costs. These could exacerbate the difficulties associated with managing the infrastructure debt that so many cities are trying so hard to manage. The repercussions of a trade war would be felt by all Canadians and by all communities, and Westmount included. Nous soutenons pleinement les efforts effectués par le gouvernement fédéral et provincial pour régler cette situation. As always, I will continue to work, as will all of Council, closely with our representatives in the House of Commons, Anna Gainey, and our representative in the Quebec National Assembly, Jennifer Macaron, to support this community. Finally, we would like to reaffirm our friendship with the American people. Nous restons unis, car ensemble nous pourrons bâtir un avenir prospère et durable pour toutes et tous. So I think some other councillors had wanted to discuss this as well, but this is, I just wanted to stress the grave importance, that the significant impact that this would have on us as a city. Donc, on va commencer avec des commentaires d'autres. Do you want to start? Do you have anything to update, Kathleen? No? Councillor Aronson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dovetailing on your comments, I did want to remind our residents that some of the people that will be hit hardest by a trade war, if it indeed occurs, are our merchants here in Westmount. By the same token, those merchants do carry a number of goods that are not from the United States, and I would urge you to please take this opportunity now to consider where you put your dollar, support our local businesses, and when you do, to buy Canadian from them, as if we can stand together through these difficult times, we can all help each other to minimize the damage that we're all going to experience during this time. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor Gallery, I think you have some updates.
Oui, merci Madame la Mairesse. Bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue. Nice to see you all on this snowy night. I hope you all received our beautiful frosty fun pamphlet in your mailbox. This weekend is our 40th Winter Carnival celebration of winter, and I hope you come and participate with us. There will be activities with Contactivity on Thursday. There's our annual PJ's party at Victoria Hall on Friday. All-day celebrations at King George Park. Please check the schedule. There's lots going on from 10 till 3. And lastly, on Sunday, there's a concert at Victoria Hall with McGill Classics Play. So please come and celebrate winter. There's a lot of snow, and it should be great. And our sports and rec departments worked really hard on this annual fun weekend, and I thank them very much for all that they do. My second announcement is already thinking about spring. The sports and recreation registration for spring activities will start next week, February 11th at 8 a.m. online and 8:30 in person. So there's a variety of activities for adults and kids. Please check out our online brochure, and there's soccer, there's pickleball now, your tennis lessons, and much more. So thank you, and that's it from me.
Thank you. Councillor Bostock?
Just a quick reminder, we are starting our snow clearing operations right now. So just take a look outside before you go to bed. Make sure that you are not parked on the street between 7 and 9, or as indicated on your orange signs outside. Please be mindful that when you're clearing snow, to not clear onto the sidewalk, to allow for pedestrians to get by clearly, and wave at our wonderful snow removal crews. They're working hard and overnight, and their work is greatly appreciated.
Some updates?
Yeah, just a bit of a recap from last Thursday when we had our public information session for the Claremont project. It was well attended, and the community got to see what is the, let's call it the 95, 96, 97% version of what's going to be built. You'll notice, I mean, this has been a long time coming. We've had 2 public consultations. We've had a pilot project in the fall last year. And so now we have this preferred scenario. We got a lot of feedback in the room that day. The big news, of course, the big reveal is that the Claremont Triangle remains in its current circulation pattern. But that was a useful exercise, even though the configuration did not change. The engineers and the consultants learned from that exercise, and they implemented some changes that were brought through into the final proposal. And some features of this project include, obviously, the new northbound bike path on the east side of the street. We have wider sidewalks. We have an improved experience for the buses traveling north and south. And we look for opportunities to pick up some stormwater management on the street wherever we can. Stormwater management, it's a big issue in the city, and so we try to look for opportunities to take some of the water off the street wherever we can. Of course, that came with some trade-offs. We heard a lot of feedback from the community about one of the particular trade-offs on parking. I will just say to you now that we are looking to see if there's some spaces that we could recapture in the finalized version. But there are a few tweaks left to be made, but by and large, what was revealed and what is available on the Engage Westmount site is what we will see being built next year. And next year, this year, we're 2025. What will be built later on in this year. And so as the project moves into the execution phase, as always, the engineering department will be, and the communications team will be in a constant state of informing the residents of the phasing, the impacts of the work, and we will take care of you the same way we do with all of our other projects or major projects, and this is going to be a big one. So I do encourage you, if you have not seen it, go on the Engage Westmount site, have a look, and I believe there's still an opportunity to comment online as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Councillor Roux?
Thank you. Just to add on to what Councillor Peart just said, you can add your comments for the ones who weren't able to make it in person on the new Claremont reconfiguration until the end of the day today. So I invite you to go online if you couldn't make it en présentiel. So at the gallery at Victoria Hall, until February 14th, there's an exhibition by Bethany Leblond and Joel Novak. I invite you to go see. It's very cheerful, so nice in the winter. And then on February 21st will be the vernissage for Anne Elsedon and Keith Marchand, and that will be going until March 21st. Councillor Gallery mentioned it, but I always have such fun that I would like to mention it again. The pajama party on Friday night at Victoria Hall is always so much fun. So I invite the little kids to come and the parents. I'll be there in my PJs. Donc, avec vos pyjamas, votre doudou, il va y avoir du popcorn, du jus, des surprises, il y a des matelas. C'est une vraiment belle soirée. Then there's Valentine's Dance with Jump to It. So that will be they're a division of Ballroom Blitz combo. The doors will open at 7 p.m. There will be a cash bar, and I invite you to register on Eventbrite. Then on Wednesday, February 26th, concert Northern Echoes. So the celebrated duo of Marina Thibault and Janelle Fung delight in international audiences with their spellbinding interpretation of engaging presence. So that's in collaboration with the Conseil des Arts de Montréal. So you register again on Eventbrite. And finally, there's a I can't speak, karaoke night at Victoria Hall on March 6th, because I won't be speaking to you before March 6th at a public meeting. So that's Thursday, 7 p.m. No need to be shy. Voices of all skill levels are welcome. Again, cash bar, and you need to register on Eventbrite. And I invite you to go look online because there's tons of other things happening. Thank you.
And just on that note, there is a change in the schedule for March because spring break is the first week of March, so the council meeting is mid-month, the Monday mid-month. I think it's the 17th, maybe, the 16th. So it's...
Now that I've spilt the beans,
which we have been, we've been doing that
17th.
for the past couple of years where we
17th.
switch that. There's a lot of council members who are on spring break at that time. Councillor D'Amico?
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Donc, un mot sur les taxes foncières. Les taxes foncières, le premier versement est exigible le 26 février 2025. Les comptes de taxes municipales 2025 sont disponibles en ligne depuis lundi le 20 janvier et ont été envoyés par la poste le mardi 28 janvier. Moi, effectivement, j'ai reçu le mien aujourd'hui. La date limite pour le premier versement est le mercredi le 26 février 2025. La date limite pour le deuxième versement est le lundi le 26 mai 2025. Vous pouvez aussi consulter votre compte de taxes sur le portail en ligne Voilà. Cliquez sur le site web sur Voilà et vous pouvez aller directement en ligne. Les modes de paiement acceptés sont les suivantes. Auprès de votre institution financière, en ligne, par téléphone ou en succursale, par la poste en envoyant un chèque à la ville de Westmount, en personne, ici à l'Hôtel de Ville, par chèque, débit ou argent comptant. Les chèques peuvent être glissés dans la fente à enveloppe sur la porte d'entrée. Par carte de crédit ou virement bancaire sur la plateforme ACO uniquement, des frais de service vont s'appliquer. Il y a des pénalités, donc le paiement peut être effectué en 2 versements. Un taux d'intérêt de 9 % par an sera prélevé sur le solde impayé. Une pénalité de 0,5 % par mois sur le capital impayé sera également facturée jusqu'à concurrence de 5 % en plus des frais d'intérêt. Just a reminder that the property tax is the first payment is due on February 26, 2025. The 2025 municipal tax accounts have been available online since Monday, January 20, and were mailed on Tuesday, January 28. I received mine today in the mail. The deadline for the first payment is Wednesday, February 26, 2025. The deadline for the second payment is Monday, May 26, 2025. You can also view your tax account on the Voilà online portal. You can click on Voilà on our website to access it directly. Payment methods, accepted payment methods are through your financial institution, online, by phone or at a branch, by mail or sending a check to the City of Westmount, in person here at City Hall, by check, debit, or cash. Checks can be slid into the envelope slot at the entrance door. By credit card or bank transfer on the ACO platform, there are fees applicable. There are penalties. Payment can be made in 2 installments. An interest rate of 9% per year will be charged on the unpaid balance. A 0.5% monthly penalty on the unpaid principal will also be charged, up to a maximum of 5% in addition to the interest fees. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. On va commencer avec la première période de questions. Bienvenue.
Good evening, Fabrice Veil, Claremont. First, a few comments before I ask my question. I'd like to thank everyone, because thanks to you, we know much more our neighbors on Claremont, and you contributed to the sense of community that we have in Claremont, in Westmount. I'll mention the editorial of David Price in the Westmount Independent, which sums up quite well the current situation. 3 things I put in yellow. I think the main division in Westmount municipal politics at the moment is not right-left, but environmental versus managerial. The current council seems intensely, even primarily motivated by environmental concerns. And last, the Greenists have been in charge, but much of their agenda was not discussed last election, and it does not seem popular. With that said, I do appreciate responsible ecology. However, budgetary rigor and adapting to the reality of the Westmounters is more important than high-end luxury greenwashing. Mr. Price is right. I see a little disconnect between the council and the Westmounters. The City Council is...
Assume you're going to get to a question soon?
Yeah, I will. Is forcing us to borrow $32 million in just a few months. In the light of the ballooning debt, I wonder if it was worth it to spend as much as $7 million in Lexington when the Tame Down project would have been able to reallocate some of those $1 million to much-needed repairs in busier streets. Here's the Claremont project. Will we do the same mistake again? The chief engineer told us last week that
I encourage you to get to your question. It's not.
Yep.
It's question period.
It will be close to $10 million. Maybe if it was simpler, less expensive, we would spend less time on it. So, first question, can we afford to burden our kids with all that additional debt? Isn't it time to show restraint in public works and redo our streets in a less luxury and expensive way to avoid increasing the debt unnecessarily?
Okay, so you have several elements of your question. I'd say I disagree with the editorial that was in the paper. I think that one of our most staunch environmentalists who's standing in line behind you would say we actually are not doing remotely enough. But I know that doesn't, it's more interesting to Mr. Price to spin it a different way. That's fine. Lexington was a street that was long overdue, about 20 years overdue in terms of water breaking, leaking into people's homes, all sorts of issues there. So that street was redone because the infrastructure required that street to be done. So the street was redone. There is no massive cost increase by putting dirt and, grasses as opposed to concrete and asphalt. You could always build the street cheaper. We could build Claremont without any sidewalks at all. That would be cheaper. We could have no stoplights or stop signs. We could have no paint on the road, I guess. That would be cheaper. But we have to build a street for the next 50 years, of which included in that is the hydro work, the water network, the sidewalks, and the street. In it, you'll have, a street that's designed to have buses on it. There are now several thousand students who go to school at the top of the street. Obviously, they're taken into account. So there are ways, I suppose, you could build a street cheaper. Would it be responsible? Probably not. The costs of construction have increased massively. And we're catching up on, I don't think I see Claremont residents that are here with us tonight. Is your street in good condition? Would you like to keep it like that? Should we defer this maintenance and rebuild for a little bit longer? Then maybe it could be 15 million?
I said, can we make it cheaper?
What would you like to eliminate?
But you cut down on the cost. It's already a green street. You have plenty of trees everywhere. Do you need to put trees in the middle of the street between the buses and the sidewalk? Do you need to do a complete high-end luxury bike lane when, quite honestly, once you have a new asphalt, you can put some cheaper concrete riveted things that protect the bikers and that enable you to go upstairs and are not going to cost that much money.
So I thank you for your feedback. The lion's share of the costs of this street are not coming from the paint on the bike path. They are coming from the massive infrastructure work that is, all this work is driven by what's going on underground, right? So the cost, the lion's share of the cost when we rebuild streets is the infrastructure that's underground, and of course, obviously, the above-ground infrastructure, the hydro as well. But I don't think that the plantings on the street are what's causing this to be one of the most expensive streets we've ever built. But I'll leave it at that. I don't know if Councillor Peart, and it's 4 blocks. But Councillor Peart, you may have some commentary on this. But we've listened to the people on Claremont. We understand that you want different things, but we also have a responsibility to build a street that meets tomorrow's needs as well. So, Councillor Peart, over to you.
So, something that I was surprised to learn is that building a road, the road itself is actually the most important, the most expensive component of everything. A square meter of road costs more to build than a square meter of sidewalk, square meter of bicycle paths, square meter of plantings, because the way we build roads, we build it with a concrete base, we build up from there. It is the most dollar-intensive way of rebuilding. So Lexington, which was one of the widest streets we had in the widest local streets that we had in Westmount, by narrowing it, we actually saved a lot of money. And that money that we saved, it was cheaper to build the planting bed and the wide sidewalk than it would have been to restore the wide drive-through that was Lexington. So I know it's the complexity makes it seem as if it's more expensive, but the reality is that it's either kif or a little bit less, because the most capital-intensive part is the building of the road itself.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question.
Last question is going back to what I've been asking for 2 years. Did the city paint those pedestrian crossbar in front of Roslyn School yet? Because it has not been done. And when you talk about security, I mentioned to you back in August that I had lost confidence in some people at the council, and I don't see that you take the security of our kids at heart. You're spending tens of thousands of dollars to redo a program, a project, a Claremont. You repaint the things, you put them off, etc. But you're not capable of doing the real important stuff, which is painting those pedestrian walks in front of a school and protecting a school which is right next to Claremont and the Claremont project.
Okay, your commentary is noted. Obviously, we don't paint anything in the winter, but your comment is noted for the spring paintings. And when we rebuilt and redesigned Grosvenor, that street was redesigned with the students' safety in mind. The sidewalks were widened for students and pedestrians on that street, and the intersections narrowed with raised intersections, raised crosswalks. So we have done some measures. Can we do more? Sounds like we can and should. So thank you for your question. Next question.
I think it's a combination between the safety of the kids, the visual safety, but also keeping in mind what doesn't seem to be the case after my discussions with different people on Thursday, keeping the fluidity of the traffic with the vehicles. I have the feeling that for a lot of people, the automobile is the enemy number one, and it should not be. I think it should be, and you should be promoting that you have, in a city like Westmount, people that have cars, people that have bicycles, people that are pedestrian, and you should promote that everyone shares the road equally in a very polite and respectful way. And I have not heard that lately. In much of Montreal, I'm not pointing to anyone, but a small city like Westmount, I think, has a responsibility and the opportunity to be a lead in that matter.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
commentary.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Dufour.
Good evening, Mayor and fellow councillors. Richard Dufour from Chemin Anwath. I have two questions, but before I state my questions, I just want to state that while I often challenge you and question you, perhaps antagonize you all, I do have respect and admiration for what you do. I know it's a thankless job, and I know you're doing best for the city. Nevertheless, I will continue to challenge you.
You're very welcome to do so.
I was looking over at some of your caucus meetings, the meeting minutes that you have that are reclos, I think, and I noticed in October 2024, there was a discussion that was had about the supposed proliferation of erotic massage parlors in Westmount.
I don't recall that discussion.
It's in your minutes, October 24th. And I'll continue. And the administration apparently proposed to modify the current bylaws so that only professionals who are members of the Fédération québécoise des massothérapeutes agréés can practice on their territory. I'm not making this up, I'm reading verbatim. Anyway, I was surprised to read that the city has time to rewrite bylaws to impose morals of the Victorian era when it doesn't seem to have time to update construction bylaws that date from the Victorian period. So my question, has the city passed such bylaws regarding massage parlors, and what kind of threat exactly do they pose to our community?
Do you want to, Madame la Greffier, do you want to answer this?
Peut-être juste une rectification, en fait, c'est que le règlement de zonage a été modifié pour restreindre ou encadrer cet usage-là, mais ce n'est pas un règlement spécifiquement sur les salons de massage. C'est le règlement de zonage qui va clarifier le tout.
Je ne sais pas si je comprends la précision. Moi, ce que je lis, c'est qui est dans vos procès-verbaux, c'est, en anglais, c'est to modify the current bylaws so that only professionals who are members of the Fédération québécoise des massothérapeutes can practice on the territory. So you're saying there was a modification made, but it applies.
Oui, la seule distinction dans le commentaire que vous avez fait, c'est que ce n'est pas un règlement qui vise seulement les salons de massage, par exemple. C'est une modification à la réglementation en matière d'urbanisme, une modification par rapport au règlement de zonage. Il n'y a pas un règlement particulier sur les salons de massage.
Mais les seules personnes qu'on exige d'avoir la certification de l'Ordre des massothérapeutes de Québec, ça va s'appliquer seulement dans les situations des
Je suis pas sûre
salons
de
de
comprendre votre question.
Okay,
Okay.
we will clarify. Okay, next
All right.
question.
Well, anyway, whatever the outcome, I hope that there's a happy ending. Question number 2.
You were planning that joke.
I'm sorry?
You came here tonight just to tell that joke.
Not just for that. I've made repeated requests to the city to make the Environment and Sustainability Advisory Committee minutes available to the public. To date, the city has only posted one set of minutes, even though the committee has met, I assume, at least 5 or 6 times since. I got a message just a few days ago from your staff saying that the minutes have not been posted because council needs to ratify the minutes of the meeting. I would assume it would be the advisory committee itself that would approve the minutes and not the council. One gets the impression that there is some kind of control of information that is disseminated from, that the control of information should come from the committee and not from the council.
No, do you
Sorry.
want clarification on this? Or do you want to deal with this, Councillor Aronson? The minutes come from, or Madame Monville, the minutes come from the committee, they go to council, and then they get tabled. That's the system in place.
Tous les
For all
comités
minutes, all
municipaux,
committees.
les comités municipaux ont fait des minutes, ils sont révisés par les comités et ratifiés, adoptés ou déposés au Conseil.
Mais est-ce que le comité a un dire sur ce qui, ou des commentaires, ou s'il y a des...
Oui, ils les révisent.
Hein?
Ils les
Ils révisent avant
avec-
que ça va au...
Les membres du comité, est-ce qu'ils ont le droit de voir les procès-verbaux puis faire des commentaires de correction avant que ça
Oui,
retourne au conseil?
c'est
Oui.
comme ça que ça fonctionne.
Oui.
Oui.
OK.
Thank
Alors-
you. So those are your 2 questions, Mr.
No, that wasn't a
Dufour?
question. That was my preamble. The reason I'm interested
No, I
in...
feel like those were 2 questions.
That wasn't a question. That was a comment.
It was a question about the minutes.
No, I said I suppose, but it wasn't a question. If I may just continue. The reason I'm interested in these minutes, and it's quite valid, is that back in August, before I resigned, the committee had asked the city to provide information regarding some of its operating practices related to sustainability. And one specific question I had at a time was if the city had any formal procurement policies. And if so, whether they had measures for purchases that were sustainable or from suppliers that had sustainable practices. Question: does such a procurement policy exist? And if so, are there provisions to favor Canadian and locally made products, an important issue given the current North American political crisis that you made reference to at the beginning of the meeting?
Est-ce qu'on a une réponse pour M. Dufour ce soir ou est-ce qu'on peut le donner en écrit?
En fait, il y a un règlement de gestion contractuelle qui est obligatoire pour chaque municipalité au Québec. Et oui, il y a une clause pour favoriser les achats locaux. Quand on parle locaux, c'est pas seulement à Westmount. Et on est en train de le réviser encore pour plein de raisons et pour effectivement ce qui se passe présentement dans Amérique du Nord, mais on est encadré par les règles du gouvernement provincial aussi, les lois de cités et villes. Il y a des clauses aussi qui régissent notre règlement de gestion contractuelle.
Et cette
So,
politique
thank you.
C'est un règlement.
serait accessible au public à un moment
Le
donné?
règlement, il
Oui.
est sur le site, oui.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Dufour. Next question.
Bon, je m'appelle Patrick Bamard, 251 Melville. J'ai une question pour la directrice générale. Madame, je pense, peut-être je suis en
Your
erreur.
question goes
Je peux
to
pas,
me,
je peux
and I
pas
will...
parler directement aux gens comme ça?
The rules of the council meeting, or you ask your
Okay.
question to me?
Fair enough. So, Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I have
Mr.
a question for our Director General, and that is, I think, unless I am in error, I'm supposed to have received an email probably giving me details of the specific details of the budget deficit of the city. Perhaps I'm in error, but I haven't received such an email. Is such an email forthcoming?
Concerning your question,
Last council meeting, I was told that I would be informed about the deficit of the city. You said it to me, in fact, and it seemed to be an arrangement that I would get some sort of clarification.
we'll have to look into this.
Moi, je pense que c'est très simple. Peut-être c'est pas aussi simple que je crois. C'est ça le problème.
I will relook at your question
Mais je
from
vais
January
expliquer.
and we'll get back
J'ai
to
un
you.
montant dans ma tête. Je veux pas que ce montant-là soit vraiment
Okay.
stupide. Je veux être aidé
Okay.
à ne pas être stupide. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. I think
Just to respond, ideally, you should wait for the audited financial statements of the city that come out, and those are the audited statements prepared by an external third party, and those are really the statements you should be using to rely to fix that number. So that would be the ideal answer. I don't know if the city is open to publishing interim numbers, but I prefer. Habituellement, c'est au mois de mai, je
avril,
pense. Ou
peut-être mai.
sont adoptés au mois d'avril puis sont déposés au mois. OK.
OK. Au 30 juin. Merci. Prochaine question. Next
Bonjour,
question.
mon nom est Patrice Corneau, je suis un résident depuis 25 ans de la rue Dorchester.
Bienvenue.
Puis, je voulais féliciter, en fin de compte, l'organisation pour le déneigement cette année, beaucoup moins bruyant que les dernières années. Avant, il y avait les bip
Il y a
bip
beaucoup
bip
de
à
moins de
3 heures
neige.
du matin.
Il y a moins de neige.
Mais
donc-
aujourd'hui, ça fonctionne. Ma question aujourd'hui est surtout sur le développement, justement, du stationnement qui est en avant de chez nous. Lorsque j'ai assisté aux échanges lors de pas l'élection, mais du gouvernement, pas un gouvernement.
De consultation publique.
Oui, il y a combien en 2018, avant, la première fois?
Ah.
On nous avait présenté, avant votre élection en fin de compte, on nous avait présenté une vision qui était beaucoup plus graduelle, qui respectait la hauteur des maisons du côté sud de Dorchester, qui montait jusqu'à la plaza Alexis-Nihon en fin de compte. Mais là, ce qu'on nous a représenté dans les dernières informations, c'est que le building commence à 15 étages directement sur Dorchester, en face de chez nous.
Mais c'est pas un plan final, c'est comme une vision. Est-ce que vous avez donné vos commentaires?
Oui, j'ai donné mes commentaires,
Parfait.
puis ça m'inquiète un peu. Je ne sais pas quoi faire pour un peu parler de ça, puis de ma crainte,
Oui,
justement,
merci
d'avoir des
beaucoup
grands
d'être
immeubles.
ici. On est toujours ouvert à des commentaires sur ce projet. Et vous parlez spécifiquement de la 15 étages. Du 15 étages sur la rue Dorchester en face
De Gladstone.
Gladstone,
Au coin de
celui-là.
Gladstone et Dorchester.
Oh oui, il y a beaucoup de commentaires sur celui-là aussi et des gens qui veulent quelque chose un peu plus bas avec
Ouais.
plus d'intégration de la côté sud de Dorchester et je comprends ça.
OK, avec un retrait, parce que sur les photos qu'on nous représentait, on représentait juste 6 étages. Donc, la photo de ce qu'on pourrait s'imaginer qu'est-ce que ça devrait être était beaucoup plus basse.
Oui.
En fin de compte, ça ne représentait pas la hauteur de 15 étages qui nous inquiète beaucoup.
Oui, je comprends.
Quelles seront
Vous
les...
n'êtes pas seul dans vos inquiétudes sur
OK.
celui-là.
Quelles seront les prochaines étapes pour ça?
Dans les prochaines étapes, on va publier dans les prochains jours, cette semaine, la fin de la semaine, je pense, tous les commentaires du consultation publique, mais aussi des commentaires en ligne. Donc, il va y avoir 2 documents qu'on va publier. Et ça, c'est tout le feedback qui était envoyé à nous autres en ligne sur le site Engage Westmount, mais aussi, je pense qu'on a impliqué aussi quelques commentaires qui étaient envoyés directement à moi et des fois à M. Pert. donc, les prochaines étapes, c'est on va continuer de voir qu'est-ce que le public a commenté sur quelques... Il y a des places qui avaient beaucoup de commentaires qui sont les mêmes.
OK, parfait.
Donc,
Écoute, je vous remercie beaucoup. C'est important pour nous. Je pense que développer justement ces stationnements-là à air ouverte, c'est le temps qu'ils partent, là. Fait que je suis très, très d'accord.
oui,
Puis,
oui, puis on avait reçu beaucoup de commentaires sur la rue Sainte-Catherine, puis il y avait beaucoup de commentaires des gens de Atwater Library qui veulent être impliqués dans ça, et c'est sûr qu'ils vont être impliqués. Oui, donc merci beaucoup. Monsieur Peart, est-ce que vous avez d'autres commentaires sur ça?
Merci pour vos commentaires, c'est bien apprécié. C'est juste une petite précision parce que je pense que vous avez mentionné 15 étages sur le côté de Dorchester.
Oui.
Mais
Ça, c'est sur Sainte-Catherine.
sur le côté Sainte-Catherine, ce qui a été présenté comme 15 étages. Sur le côté Dorchester, c'est soit 7 étages jusqu'à 10, mais ce n'est pas 15 sur Dorchester, sur ce qui a été proposé. Mais cela dit que ce qui est proposé, c'est juste un premier essai. C'est une ébauche, c'est juste ça.
Ouais.
C'est rien de final. Mais il n'y avait jamais une 15 étages sur Dorchester.
La hauteur qui est représentée, c'est la même hauteur que la GRC, que le plus grand building de la GRC, en fin de compte.
La plus grande building de la GRC, c'est 12 étages, mais il n'y a aucune sur le côté de Dorchester qui est aussi haut que ça.
OK. Parfait. Mais je pensais vraiment que c'était si haut que ça.
On est en train de discuter. On
Ouais,
fait
c'est
justement, je sais bien fort qu'on ne veut pas des hauteurs.
Ouais.
Et on est en train maintenant de voir, je n'ai pas vu tous les commentaires, mais ça va être incorporé en espérant dans les plans. C'est ça le but.
Parfait.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Bonne soirée.
Bonsoir, c'est Shona Godwin de la rue Clermont.
Welcome, bienvenue.
Merci. Merci aussi pour toute l'information que vous avez partagée le 20 janvier par rapport à la configuration de Clermont. J'ai 2 questions par rapport aux vos données et le processus. Pour ce qui est des données, est-ce que vous avez l'information qui supporte l'installation de 8 ou 9 nouveaux feux de circulation? Est-ce que vous avez les données par rapport aux heures qui ne sont pas des heures le matin, une heure occupée le matin et l'après-midi? Est-ce que vous avez des données qui supportent autant de feux de circulation? Il y aura 5 feux de circulation entre avenue Notre-Dame-de-Grâce et avenue Roslyn, et les automobiles auront à s'arrêter 5 fois. Est-ce que, à part les heures de grande circulation, il n'y a pas de circulation. Et comment est-ce que les données supportent des feux de circulation aussi dans une telle proximité? Vous arrêtez sur le coin de avenue Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, vous arrêtez sur Clermont, vous arrêtez sur Westmount Avenue, vous arrêtez à Grosvenor et à Victoria et à Grosvenor. Ce n'est pas des mesures de sécurité quand vous avez des automobiles qui sont frustrés à cause du nombre important d'arrêts. Alors, première question, quelles données, ces données n'ont été pas partagées dans aucune consultation. Pourquoi nous avons besoin de 8 nouveaux feux de circulation?
Si vous me parlez, vous avez mentionné 8 nouveaux feux de circulation?
Oui.
Je le vois 3, non?
Moi, je vois qu'il y a 2.
Non, il y en a il y a 4 nouveaux, le coin de Clermont et avenue Westmount. Il y en a 4, le carrefour de NDG Avenue.
Okay, sorry. You mean sets of lights, not... You mean actual light fixtures?
Oui, il y en a 8 de nouveaux, puis je pense le 9e sur le coin de avenue Notre-Dame-de-Grâce. C'est des feux de circulation qui vont causer la pollution parce que ça fait un stationnement. Il y a plusieurs membres de votre administration qui ont dit qu'ils aimeraient bien arrêter le trafic, ralentir le trafic pour empêcher des gens d'entrer dans le Westmount. Installer, comment vous le comptez, 2 nouveaux séries ou 2 nouveaux séries de feux de circulation, ça va arrêter le trafic qui cause la pollution, y compris le bruit quand les automobiles sont frustrés puis ils klaxonnent. Est-ce que vous avez des données qui supportent que le trafic hors 1 heure le matin puis 1 heure l'après-midi, le trafic supporte tant de feux de circulation?
These, do you want me to? And then we can get back to you with further information on this, but these recommendations come from traffic engineers as part of the design team of this street. The idea is that they will be synchronized and that they are put in high pedestrian zones where where students are crossing. And it had come from several residents on the street throughout the discussions that there was an issue of safety and there was an issue of student crossings and things like that. If you disagree with that, your point is noted.
La frustration peut aussi causer des excès de vitesse. Have you considered other means, such as speed bumps in front of the stop signs that are there now? Speed bumps that would cause the cars to stop but allow them to continue and maintain the fluidity so that we don't have a parking lot around the Claremont Triangle.
I can't answer the speed bump question. I don't know if that would be a appropriate mitigation use at that area.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question about the process. On January 20th, we were encouraged to provide feedback. There were sheets to provide feedback. Engage Westmount was open until 5 o'clock today. Several members of your administration said there could be further changes. There might not be street lights. There might be speed bumps. The street lights, the proximity might not be support so many traffic lights. The number of cars or the limited number of cars in off-peak hours might not support that many street lights. But the point is there was lots of statements, this could change. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question about the process is, when do we see the final configuration? When there's a call for tenders? When will we get the information about what is being put out to bid to construct?
When will that be? The timeline will be... No, she's talking about Claremont. March, probably, I guess. Wait. So there's some feedback. Largely, the design has been agreed upon. There are some tweaks, but the triangle remains open, and then there are other tweaks. But it is difficult. We have to rely on experts that understand how to build and design a road for the implementation of that project. So
and
thank you for your question.
Can we see those reports? Could we see those expert reports, and could we see the
you can ask for anything via access to information, and if that is you are fully aware of the way to get that.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we're going to move on to the next questioner. Thank you.
Hello. First, Mayor Smith, I'd just like to thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And I'm here. I'm sure that you've been hearing a lot about Claremont, and just want to add a few short notices, thoughts on it. I was wondering if we can ask...
I don't think you stated your name, Mr. Goddard, for the record, so if you could do that.
Well, if we're going to be formal.
Yes.
Okay. Nigel Goddard on Côte Saint-Antoine, 592. Right. And so part of my house is on Claremont, lovely street. Very excited about all the changes. I know that a lot of work has gone into it. But then, of course, NIMBY, not in my backyard. Mm-hmm. We've all felt it from time to time. One level of government does something that we may not necessarily like, and we'd like it to be elsewhere. Sometimes NIMBYism isn't a bad thing if there's reasons behind it. So without talking for too long, I would just like to suggest that the bike path, which is needed, there's no doubt, I'm in favor of more cycling. I'm planning on getting an e-bike to go to my office in TMR. But I'm just wondering if we could ask Montreal to have the bike path. Gray is a street that has no parking on one side already. So the residents are already used to having no parking on one side. I know that there's some problems with having the bike path on Prince Albert. But there are other streets, north-south streets. Now, I know that Sherbrooke is an issue. I get that. But there are several other streets in Westmount that have parking only on one side 24/7. You just can't park on the other side. So I'm thinking maybe it's a good idea to have the bike path where residents are already used to not having, where parking wouldn't be an issue because they can't park there anyway. So the streets that I'm thinking of, because I know that Victoria is a bit of a problem also, it's a narrow street, Strathcona, Arlington, Mount Stevens. These are all streets that have parking only on one side of the street. So if we need a north-south bike path to link up to Côte Saint-Antoine, which has a bike path, which right now isn't being used because there's a lot of snow on it, maybe we could consider, I'm not saying you have to do it, I'm just one voice, but consider putting it Gray or any of these north-south streets that only have one side for
Thank you for
parking.
your question, your commentary, and it should be noted, this is the first bike path or dedicated bike path that we have put in the 8 years that I have been mayor. So that's not like there's been some massive bike expansion in the city under, while I have been mayor. And Claremont is one of the lowest grades in terms of the hill going up and connecting. Not only obviously de Maisonneuve is the largest used bike path, anywhere within our vicinity, where we have thousands of people a day on that bike path, but it also connects with Côte Saint-Antoine and with Westmount Avenue, which connects with NDG Avenue. It's got a cégep at the top of it, and it's a wide street. And so for all of those reasons, it met that criteria, and it's within our territory, obviously. I know Montreal has obviously expanded their bike network, at far greater pace than we have. But it was that reasoning why Côte Saint-Antoine, or why Claremont was chosen as part of, we are doing the full rebuild of the street. It's not just cosmetic. Do you want to add anything on that? So thank you for your commentary on that. But that was, it's not a decision that's taken lightly. Of course, we know, everything gets people upset. So we obviously knew that a bike path was going to enrage some people. And that's the decision, and be a welcome addition as a different mode of, a different way to bring safety to bikers throughout the city. So we knew that it was going to upset some people. And often, what we've seen, and we've seen examples of this all over Montreal, where it's gonna kill, the commercial sector or whatever, doesn't end up being true, and it ends up being that the streets tend to be safer.
That's why I'm mentioning it now, before we have to get used to it, if there's some last chance to move it elsewhere.
And it was it's the one that connects to all three,
right?
Whereas the others don't, right? So this one,
we were the winning bid. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing about the grade, I think that most of the cyclists that I've seen cyclists on Edgehill, so I don't think the grade in Westmount is much of a deterrent to a serious cyclist.
But it's not necessarily a bike path designed for those that are training, that loop around.
Not even trainers, just
the
people
mountain
who
and
ride bikes to work, to commute downtown. They can handle a little hill. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next question.
Good evening. Bonsoir. Thomas Rollin, Claremont-Westmount. So tonight I will have just a very brief comment about the public consultation that we had, I think, a few days ago at Victoria Hall. So thank you for setting it up. Thank you to all the councillors who attended and were there to answer questions, as well as the public administration.
I think the majority of council was actually at the public consultation.
Yeah. So I have a very brief comment about that. So I really welcome the fact that the idea of closing the diagonal is over, I would say. I think that's a very good thing, especially following the 4 months pilot project and the results. And one thing that is of concern, it's again the traffic light, it was mentioned. Simply because I don't think traffic lights are an issue, but I think that there are way too many. And so what I fear is that we're going to create or recreate the situation that we faced with the diagonally closure, meaning increase traffic jam. And so at the end, we're going to have the same end result. Traffic jam, a driver very frustrated, road rage incidents, and ultimately conducting or driving and rear-ending some residents, which happened. I think one of my neighbor came here to testify about it. So that was just my comment, and I made sure to enter them on the website.
Okay, thank you.
My 2 questions, very, very straightforward. I wanted to know, because I've heard different answers about that question, about the Washington type of lamppost. And so I'm wondering why we can't have those on Claremont. And so I just wanted to make sure we had an answer about that.
I know that we're looking at, well, obviously, when we look at lighting on the majority of our streets, certainly the residential, like solely the smaller, more narrow residential streets, we always put a Washington lamppost. It's a signature look of the city. Mm-hmm. And it's an important sort of trademark of the city. On the wider streets, like a street like Claremont, it's not as efficient in terms of lighting and safety. So they are looking at different options for that. If it did have to go with an overhead, they would look at a more traditional style than sort of the Cobras that we see on Sherbrooke Street and things like that. So it's an issue that has been raised and one that they're trying to solve in terms of how to balance between the heritage look of the Washington and the safety of the street.
I understand. Thank you. And the second and last question is about. I came 2 months ago and I asked to have access to a section of the final WSP engineering report called Suivi de commentaires.
Oui.
And I was told to make or create or
demande d'accès d'information.
Which I did. The access was denied. A reason was provided. Fine. But I was wondering, has any of the city councillors received access to that section of the report?
I'm not sure what section exactly you're referring to.
So the final report, the engineering report, WSP, about the Triangle, pilot project, had a section, suivi de commentaires, and
we had a presentation. I'm not sure we had the. I'm not sure. I don't know if on a vu les commentaires, mais I'm not sure if we.
I wouldn't think so, because 2 months ago when I asked, Mr. Perth said that he didn't have
a presentation of it, or we had a commentary, but I don't know if I don't have the final report. I certainly don't have it in front of me, so I don't have an answer for you right now.
So you don't know if you have had access to that section or not?
No, but if you give me a written question, we will. And if you write to me exactly what your question is, we can go back through the files.
Sounds good. I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification: when somebody submits an access to information, the council doesn't see any of it.
Yeah, no.
So we're not. So if you've had that conversation with the administration, we're not privy to any of it. So you asking for it, and then the answer that you received.
Sure. Which
down.
is normal, but it's because 2 months ago I came here asking the question, and so the council was not aware or didn't notice that section. So the title of the section was in the report, okay, in the table des matières, but that section was not provided with it. And so I was told to make une demande d'accès, which I did, and it was denied, which is fine. Again, I understand reasons were provided, but my concern is that I want to make sure that our city councillors and our elected representatives have access to all the data and all the content of the report. That's why I'm asking the question.
I pulled up the report now, and I can answer that. Suivi de commentaires. The next 2 pages are blacked out. I haven't seen them either, so I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what was in them.
Okay. So, are you planning on having a look at those, or is it normal for elected representatives not to have full access to data?
I cannot give you. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Okay, well, which is fine, yeah, as long as we know for the future.
This document is 97 pages. We get an executive summary. We received the comments from the engineer. So it's the first time that I'm noticing that was not there.
Okay.
Nor is the role of council to read through the engineering documents that are submitted to the administration on, details that are, there's a lot that the council does not see. We do not see all of the working documents of our engineers.
Yeah.
So
I understand. I just think you should have access to all the documents, and then it's your free will to decide if you have to go through everything or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for questions in the room? Because then we'll move to the next part of the agenda. Donc, on va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour.
I move that the agenda of the regular council sitting of February 13th, 3rd, be adopted.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. Oui. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 5, approbation du procès verbal. Councillor Bostock again. I just ask, I'll give it 30 seconds. So if you are leaving, we would ask you to be quiet so we can move on to the next part. And I'm not asking you to leave. I'm just saying if that's how you choose to want to spend the rest of your Monday evening, then I bid you farewell. But I will give it 30 seconds till. OK, merci. Item number 5, numéro 5, approbation du procès verbal. Councillor Bostock.
I move that the minutes of the regular and special council sittings held on December 2nd, 2024, December 16, 2024 be approved.
Thank you very much. Seconded again by Councillor Gallery. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 6 is reports to council. Les rapports au Conseil, la correspondance. Les documents suivants sont déposés. Information sur la réunion publique concernant le rapport d'étape 2020 au 2030 du plan climat de la Ville de Montréal. Information sur la réunion publique concernant le schéma de couverture de risque de sécurité incendie 2025-2034 de l'agglomération de Montréal. 6.2, le procès verbal du comité plénier. Councillor Bostock. 6.2.
No, my thing is off here. That the minutes of the General Committee of Council meetings held on November 4, 2024 and November 18, 2024 are tabled and are available on the city's.
Thank you very much. 6.3, le rapport de la main-d'œuvre. Councillor Chamy.
The workforce report for the month of December 2024 is now tabled.
Thank you. 6.4, 6.4, le registre des paiements. Councillor D'Amico.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. La liste des paiements pour le mois de décembre 2024.
Merci. 6.6, c'est encore Councillor D'Amico. Liste de facturation des droits de mutation.
Les listes de facturation des droits de mutation pour le mois de décembre 2024 sont déposées.
Merci beaucoup.
Mayor, you missed.
Oh, I'm sorry. 6.5 is Councillor Chamy. Liste d'approbation en vertu du règlement 1507.
In accordance with Bylaw 1507 on the delegation of powers to certain employees of the City of Westmount, the list of authorization of expenditures for the month of December 2024 is now tabled.
Thank you. I apologize for skipping that. 6.6, Councillor D'Amico has already tabled. 6.7, le dépôt des procès-verbaux de correction, résolution 2024-12-312.
Oui, je dépose le procès verbal de correction portant sur la résolution 2024-12-312.
Merci beaucoup. Numéro 7, designation of the authority having jurisdiction, employees of the Public Security Department. This is Councillor Kez.
Whereas Council adopted bylaw 1522 concerning dogs and related permits, as well as the amending bylaw 1522-2024-1, whereas by virtue of this bylaw, the city has the power to issue permits for dogs on its territory, to control their presence, and to issue statements of infraction. I move that the employees of the Public Security Department, including management, be named the competent authority for the implementation of bylaw 1522 concerning dogs and related permits.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Any further comments? No?
No, this is self-explanatory. They'll give the permits, and then we'll know what dogs are on the territory. They'll be able to
Yep.
identify, et cetera. Yeah?
And a dog license is mandatory. All in favor? Carried. We are now in item
Madame la
number...
mairesse,
Oh, Mr.
j'ai pas vu le vote du conseil d'amicaux.
No.
Mr.
Well,
D'Amico is voting against?
I'm voting against just because I have a doubt in my mind that the bylaw in concerned Summit Woods may not be conforming to the provincial law, as I've stated for the last 7 months. So
Okay,
I will
so-
be voting just as it relates to Summit Woods only.
But you're voting against the motion. That's fine.
Voting against
The
the
rest,
motion.
and motion is carried. So with Councillor D'Amico dissent. Okay, thank you. Item number 8 is Councillor Gallery contingencies gasket replacement on heat exchangers HX2 and HX3. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council approve the addition of an amount of $3,071.83, including taxes, to purchase order BC 031425 for additional services rendered by Simcoe Refrigeration, that the amount be charged to purchase order BC 031425 according to the financial information in the decision-making file 2024-2494.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. Any further comments?
Just some additional work and maintenance with the fixing of the refrigeration system in the WRC.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Item number 9 is...
Madame la mairesse, il n'y a plus de vote.
Wait. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Item number 9, numéro 9, appui paysage humanisé de Mont-Royal, is Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As this is it's a bit of a nuanced motion, I'm going to go through the whereases here so we're all
That's
very
a good
clear on
idea.
exactly what we're doing. So whereas the government of Quebec has introduced a status of humanized landscapes as a tool to promote the protection of inhabited territories in harmony with nature under the Natural Heritage Conservation Act, which is CQLR Chapter C61-01, and whereas the cultural landscape designation allows for the implementation of several actions outlined in the action plan for the recognition and promotion of the Montérégie Hills that was adopted by the Montreal Urban Community, otherwise known as the CMM, in 2022, following the work of a task force created for that purpose. That was Resolution CE 22-132. And whereas a humanized landscape status for the hill of Mount Royal would contribute significantly to the goal of protecting 10% of natural environments, and Mount Royal Hill is already designated for its protection and enhancement. And whereas the CMM has the necessary resources to carry out these conservation projects required to obtain a humanized landscape status for the Montérégie Hills that include the hill of Mount Royal. And whereas a humanized landscape status would be granted by the Quebec Ministry of the Environment, the Fight Against Climate Change, Wildlife and Parks, otherwise known as MELCCFP, and that the city wishes to ensure compatibility of the dual status, which can only be confirmed upon receipt of the eligibility assessment for the application. And whereas the Ministry of Culture and Communications and the aforementioned MELCCFP will clarify the overlapping application of the humanized landscape and heritage statuses for the Mount Royal Hill territory, I move that the City of Westmount communicated support for the CMM in its efforts to obtain humanized landscape status for the Montérégie Hills. That further, that the City of Westmount participate in the work of a task force responsible for renewing the CMM's recognition application for the Mount Royal Hill, particularly to obtain clarification from the ministries on the application of this dual status.
Thank you very much, Councillor Aronson, seconded by Councillor Gallery. Do you want to add any further comments on this?
Yes, just very
Okay.
quickly. This is a long and somewhat confusing motion in that we are offering support to the CMM in their efforts to obtain an additional status for the Montérégie Hills under new laws or a new status established by the province of Quebec. The core of this is to recognize that a humanized landscape, which is the goal of the status is to aim to protect biodiversity in an inhabited territory. So a place where, whether either territorial or aquatic, where the landscape and the natural components have been shaped over time by human activities in harmony with nature. For example, if you were to say, use that area as a park or recreation area, if you were there to enjoy the splendor and beauty of nature, or if you're there to say, take a long walk with your dog. All of these are completely compatible activities under this status. And in fact, this whole goal of this of the recognition of this humanized landscape status is to recognize that there are parts of our natural environment that that we want to conserve, and that conservation strongly depends on the continuation of practices that gave rise to them. So where humans are living on the landscape here in Quebec, landscapes that are natural in their character, that we seek to preserve, but that we recognize all citizens have a right to use in the way that they wish to use, including, for example, with their dogs.
Thank you, Mr. Aronson.
This helps us to solidify that status and is in no way, shape, or form conflicting with any of our existing bylaws.
Mr. Aronson's commentary and
You're welcome.
clarification of this.
I hope I've made myself abundantly clear, and there's no debate on this extremely clear issue.
So I thank you for your commentary on this, and this is, I think as Councillor Aronson was pointing out, is in no way do we lose any, obviously, control of, we are part of our summit is a beloved part of our city, and in no way does this lose any control of that. So so this is seconded by Councillor Gallery. All those in favor? Anyone against?
No.
Councillor.
I just want to make a comment. I want to respond to Councillor Aronson.
So first,
Okay, the vote,
we'll
sure.
vote.
Yep.
So all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Briefly.
So I'd like to make the following comments on this. We're talking about greenwashing. Here's a great example of greenwashing. First of all, the CMM doesn't even know that Summit Woods was designated as a dog run, number one. Number two, it's contradictory to me, and I've already stated this internally, that it's contradictory to me to say that this is a humanized like Mount Royal when it's not like Mount Royal. Mount Royal, the dogs have to be on leash. In Summit Woods, the dogs can be off-leash. So the only point we differ, Councillor Aronson and myself, is yes, for dogs, but I'm saying the dogs have to be on leash.
Okay.
And he's saying
Thank
the dogs
you.
have to be off-leash. That's the only point. I see
so-
a contradiction and major greenwashing. And I think, Mayor, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. And I think that's the point I really want to get through here.
If that's a lesson I've learned in life. There you go. Next motion. The next is item number 10, renewal of the general automobile insurance coverages. Councillor Shammy, for something far less contentious.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the amount of $36,074.64, including a 9% tax, to be paid to Beneva Assurance Générale for the automobile insurance premium for the period of January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2026. That a total expenditure of $36,074.64, including the 9% tax, be authorized to cover this payment in accordance with the financial information described in the decision-making file 2024-2509, and that the Director of Legal Services and City Clerk, or in her absence, the Assistant Director of Legal Services and Assistant City Clerk, be authorized to sign all documents required to implement this resolution.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Carried. Item number 11 is again Councillor Chamy. Numéro 11, c'est le mandat de service juridique Langlois Avocat.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that a contract for legal support be awarded to Langlois Avocat Law Firm in the amount of $45,990 even, taxes included, and that the city clerk or assistant city clerk be authorized to sign all documents for the execution of the contract awarded by the city, including any deed as representative of the said city in said matter.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. All in favor? Thank you. Item number 12 is again Councillor Chamy, is approbation d'un système de pondération et d'évaluation service professionnel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the city adopt a system of weighting and evaluation, including price, a one-step process with a one envelope only attached to this resolution for calls for tender for professional services for the Technology Information Department, evaluated at over $133,800, including taxes, unless otherwise specified by way of resolution of council, and that said system of bid weighting and evaluating be valid for the year 2025.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. No more comments on that. All in favor? Carried. Item number 13 is agreement occupation of the public domain, the Westmount Independent. This is Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will read the whereases. Whereas Sherbrooke Valois Inc., hereafter referred to as Valois, creates, edits, and distributes free of charge a weekly newspaper within the territory of the city of Westmount, known as Westmount Independent, hereinafter referred to as the newspaper. Whereas Valois has installed a newspaper distribution box for the newspaper located on the boulevard at the intersection of Roslyn Avenue near the base of the Roslyn Stairs, as shown in Annex 1. Whereas the distribution box is located on public property owned by the city and its occupation is governed by bylaw 1621 respecting the occupation of public property. Whereas section 1.8 of bylaw 1621 respecting the occupation of public property. I move, Madam Mayor, that Valois be authorized to occupy public property by installing and maintaining a newspaper distribution box for the newspaper located at the boulevard at the intersection of Roslyn Avenue. That the occupation of public property be granted until October 29, 2029, free of charge. That this authorization be granted on the condition that the agreement appended to decision-making file 2024-2515 is duly signed.
Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. This is, one would think, a burning issue in the city, but this is an issue in that we have a bylaw in place where you cannot occupy the public domain. So this is an agreement to allow for the public domain to have these boxes, an agreement specifically with the Westmount Independent. As we know, they service our community. So that's what this is all about. It's really a more housekeeping item. So, seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Carried. Item number 14, intermunicipal service agreement with the Ville de Montréal, work on Green Avenue. This is Councillor Kez.
Thank you, Madame Mayor. I will read the whereas is. It's going to be a pretty big project. Whereas the City of Montreal, hereinafter Montreal, wishes to call for tenders, carry out rehabilitation work on a 350 millimeter water main. That's big. Yeah?
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Water main under Green Avenue between Saint Antoine and St. Catherine Street on the territory of the City of Westmount, hereinafter Westmount. Whereas Westmount wishes to take advantage of Montreal's work to rehabilitate a combination of sewer line and replace the water connections, and has asked Montreal to include this in its work contract. Whereas the water connections to be replaced on the 350 millimeter diameter water main and the secondary sewer main to be rehabilitated are located under Green Avenue, i.e. on the territory of Westmount, and fall under the latter's jurisdiction, and that it wishes to proceed with their rehabilitation. Whereas it is the public interest that the work to replace the water connections and rehabilitate the secondary sewer line in Westmount be carried out at the same time as the work on the water main under the responsibility of Montreal. Whereas Section 468 and following the Cities and Towns Act, RQCC 19, and Section 46 of the Act respecting the exercise of certain municipal powers in certain urban agglomerations, whereas Montreal and Westmount have respectively adopted a contract management bylaw pursuant to Section 573(3.1.2 of the Cities and Towns Act and have taken natural cognizance of the same. I move that Westmount enter an agreement with Montreal for the replacement of the water service connections and the rehabilitation of the secondary sewer line located in Green Avenue between St. Antoine Street and St. Catherine Street West. That Westmount mandate Montreal to represent in the contracting process, including the award and execution of contracts required to complete the work. That the agreement be conditional on the granting of the necessary monetary credits by the Westmount Council once the tendering process has been completed by Montreal, that Montreal be appointed the project manager for the work, that the clerk be authorized, to sign an agreement with Montreal for the completion of the work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh. Where is that? The last of the whereas? Okay, Montreal and Westmount have respectively adopted a contract management bylaw pursuant to Section 573.3.1.2 of the Cities and Towns Act and have taken mutual cognizance of the same.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Seconded by Councillor Peart. This is a very significant project, the one that we have been waiting for. This has been delayed a few times, which has had a significant impact on some of our planning for infrastructure work, whether it be hydro work, the work that we've done on Dorchester, work that needs to be done in Selby Lane, often gets bumped or shifted around with the expectation that this water main is going to be dealt with. But as we always say, the most important infrastructure is underground. So this will be a significant project and will be disruptive for the neighborhood, certainly. So, seconded by Councillor D'Amico. By Councillor Peart. Do you have any other comments on this? No? No?
No. Nope.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Item number 15 is actually going to be passed by Councillor Roux, and Councillor Peart is going to recuse himself. So, call for public tenders, professional services and engineering, mobility and development in the public domain, and the design, preparation of plans and specifications and technical assistance for Mountain Avenue.
Thank you, Madam
Councillor
Mayor.
Roux.
Alors, je propose d'autoriser une dépense de 436 120,75 $, incluant le crédit de taxe pour les services professionnels en ingénierie, mobilité et aménagement du domaine public et la conception, la préparation des plans et devis et l'assistance technique pour l'avenue Mountain. Appel d'offres public numéro PUB-2024-047. D'accorder à Ponton-Guillot le contrat à cette fin au prix de sa soumission, soit pour une somme maximale de 477 609 $ et 8 sous, taxes incluses, le tout conformément aux documents contractuels de l'appel d'offres public PUB 2024-047, d'imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au sommaire décisionnel numéro 2024-2493.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Roux. Seconded by Councillor Shammy. This is an important step in the work that needs to get done on Mountain Street, and if anyone, or Mountain Avenue, if anyone remembers some of the storms from last summer and the effects that they had on Mountain, it was significant, severe, would be probably a more apropos term. So it is going to require some significant planning in how that rebuild of that street is done. So, Madame Roux, any other comments?
No, it's one of the worst streets when there's water. So.
Yes, yes. So, seconded by Councillor Shammy. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Councillor Peart can come back in now, if he's so willing. Thank you. Item number 16 is Councillor Bostock, contract purchase order, Cubex equipment.
I move that a purchase order be issued for the purchase of parts and maintenance services from Cubex Equipments to authorize an expenditure of $73,491.25, including the tax credit for a maximum amount of $80,482.50, including all applicable taxes, being in conformity with the financial information described in the decision-making summary number 2024-2500.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Any further comments? No? All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 17, numéro 17, c'est encore conseiller Bostock. Et c'est le contrat bon de commande Napa pièce d'auto Saint-Henry.
I move that a purchase order be issued for the purchase of tools and equipment at Napa St. Henri Auto Parts to authorize an expenditure of $57,743.12, including the tax credit, and for a maximum amount of $63,236.25, including all applicable taxes for this purchase order in accordance with the financial information described in the decision-making file number 2024-2497.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 18 is again Councillor Bostock, contrat bon de commande Le Groupe Guy.
I move that a purchase order be issued for mechanical inspections and the purchase of parts from Le Groupe Guy, that an expenditure of $62,992.50, including the tax credit for a maximum amount of $68,985, taxes included, be authorized for this purchase order in accordance with the financial information described in the decision-making file number 2024-2498.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Do you have any other details? No. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 19 is again Councillor Bostock, is contract purchase order équipement Planard Limité.
We need to make sure all of our equipment is running well. I move that a purchase order be issued for the purchase of parts and equipment from Équipement Planard Limité, that an expense of $89,990, including the tax credit for a maximum amount of $91,980, taxes included, be authorized for this purchase order in accordance with the financial information described in the decision-making file number 2024-2499.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 20, numéro 20, c'est modification d'un contrat de travaux civils mineurs d'Hydro-Westmount, PUB 2024-032. C'est Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the contract awarded to Lorrain 1991 Inc. for Hydro Westmount's minor civil work for lots 1 and 4, Resolution 2024-08-188, be now modified and increased to a maximum amount of $358,763.39, including taxes, and an additional expenditure be authorized in the amount of $21,155.40, including taxes for said contract, and finally to allocate this expenditure in accordance with financial information included in the decision-making file 2024-2330 and 2024-2461.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments?
Straightforward.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 21, c'est le conseiller Caisse, modification d'un contrat, approbation d'une clôture de sécurité autour de 4030 le boulevard Dorchester.
Merci, Madame Mayor. Whereas a notice of its deterioration has been registered in the Land Register with respect to the movable located at 4030 Dorchester Boulevard, Resolution number 2019-2-29. Whereas the city has initiated legal proceeding against the owner of the movable located at 4030 Dorchester Boulevard to force him to carry out the work to bring into compliance with current standards. Whereas the condition of the movable required the installation of protective fences, which are still in place due to the absence of corrective work on the movable, whereas the funds earmarked to pay the monthly costs of maintaining the protective fence have been exhausted. I move that an additional expenditure of $10,000, including all applicable taxes, be authorized for the rental contract of protective fences awarded to Échafaudaux Plus Laval Inc. to charge this expense according to the financial information described in the decision-making summary of 2024-2501.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Given the details of that, I don't think we need further comments and the legal proceedings. So all in favor? Carried. That is item 21. Item 22, notice of motion bylaw 1625 to amend certain provisions of the zoning bylaw regarding tree planting, tree protection, and vegetative surfaces in side yards. The city clerk, or the draft bylaw 1625 entitled bylaw to amend certain provisions of the zoning bylaw regarding tree planting, tree protection, and vegetative surfaces in side yards be adopted for submission to a public meeting in accordance with the provisions of an act respecting land use planning and development, CQLR Chapter A-1.91, that a public meeting be held in the council chambers at City Hall on February 25th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in accordance with the provisions of said act. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I give notice of the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent meeting of council bylaw number 1625 entitled bylaw to amend certain provisions of the zoning bylaw regarding tree planting, tree protection, and vegetative surfaces in side yards. I will table
Copy
the
of the
said
draft.
bylaw. Yeah.
Yeah, and made available for public consultation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item number 23, notice of motion bylaw 1626 to amend various urban planning bylaws in order to modify the amounts of fines. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I give a notice of the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent meeting of council bylaw number 1626 entitled bylaw to amend various urban planning bylaws in order to modify the amount of fines. I am to table the draft of said bylaw, and the object of this bylaw is to amend various urban planning bylaws in order to update the amount of fines in the event of a breach of regulatory provision. A copy of the draft bylaw is available for public consultation.
Thank you very much. Any further comments on that? No?
Some fine amendments, and some of them are related to increased fines for tree violations.
Perfect, thank you. Item number 24, notice of motion bylaw 1630, amending bylaw 1619 to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to give notice, the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent meeting of council bylaw number 1630 entitled a bylaw amending bylaw 1619 to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity. The object of this bylaw is to amend bylaw 1619, modifying the information required from the customer receiving the supply of electricity, and a copy of the draft bylaw is now available for public consultation.
Thank you very much. Item number 25, numero 25, adoption of bylaw 1627, authorizing capital expenditures and a loan of $3,009,000 for the repair of public stairs. Madame la Greffier.
Oui, toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées et des copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du Conseil et mises à la disposition du public.
Merci. Can I have the declaration by each council member present that he or she has read the bylaw and that it is exempt of being read? Thank you. Councillor Gallery.
The object of the bylaw is, the object of this bylaw is to authorize capital expenditures and a loan of $3,009,000 for the repair of public stairs. I move that bylaw number 1627 entitled bylaw authorizing capital expenditures and a loan of $3,009,000 for the repair of public stairs be adopted.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments about this? This is public stairs throughout the city. And we have lots of them, and we have lots of them in dire need of repair, including the Roslyn steps. So, seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Aye. I declare the bylaw number 1627 entitled bylaw authorizing capital expenditures and a loan of $3,009,000 for the repair of public stairs and having been duly adopted, it is ordered that notices be given as required by law. Item number 26, adoption bylaw 1628, authorizing capital expenditures and a loan of $2,647,190 for the refurbishment of a municipal building. of Municipal Buildings. The Assistant City Clerk.
Oui, toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées et des copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du Conseil et mises à la disposition du public.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration de la part de chaque membre du Conseil présent à la fait qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que la lecture en est dispensée? Thank you very much. It is now Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that bylaw 1628, entitled a bylaw authorizing a capital expenditure and a loan of $2,647,190 for the refurbishment of municipal buildings be adopted.
Thank you. And you should note that the object of this bylaw is to provide capital works financing for the reconstruction of public stairways in this, no, that's the wrong one, sorry.
Municipal buildings.
Municipal buildings, which you, where is you didn't give the object of the bylaw, though. Okay. C'est bon. So, seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Carried. I declare that bylaw 1628 entitled Bylaw Authorizing Capital Expenditures and a Loan of $2,647,190 for the refurbishment of municipal buildings having been duly adopted, it is ordered that notices be given as required by law. Item number 27, adoption of bylaw 1629, amending bylaw 1575 to establish a planning advisory committee. The assistant city clerk as well.
Oui, toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées. Des copies du règlement ont été transmises à tous les membres du Conseil et mises à la disposition du public.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration de la part de chaque membre du Conseil présent qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement and that is exempt from being read? So declared. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. J'explique que l'objet de ce règlement est de modifier le règlement 1575 constituant un comité consultatif d'urbanisme. Je propose que le règlement 1629 intitulé « Règlement visant à modifier le règlement 1575 constituant un comité consultatif d'urbanisme » soit adopté.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. All in favor? Carried. I declare that bylaw 1629, entitled Bylaw Amending Bylaw 1575 to establish a planning advisory committee having been duly adopted, is ordered that notices be given as required by law. Item number 28, denial of a site planning and architectural integration program, 33 Avenue, Burton Avenue. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. I will always read the whereases for the refusals or denials. Whereas the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, for the month of November 2024, held on November 26th and 29th of 2024, were tabled at this sitting, whereas the main role of the PAC is to analyze and give recommendations on any requests that must be submitted to it in accordance with the Act respecting land use, planning and development, CQLR, Chapter A-19.1, and on any other application in matters of land use planning and development that is submitted to it by council. Whereas an application has been submitted by the applicant under bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs, whereas said application does not meet the objectives and criteria of bylaw 1305, whereas the PAC has issued an unfavorable recommendation regarding said application as stated in the minutes of the regular meeting of November 2024, whereas according to bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs, council must decide on the recommendations of the committee by way of resolution. I thereby move that the Municipal Council uphold the unfavorable opinion of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as stated in the minutes of its regular meeting held on November 26th and 28th of 2024, under item PAC 24-11.13 of the agenda of said meeting, and refuse the conditions of the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program for the issuance of a permit according to the plans and documents submitted with the permit request 2024-011111, SPAIP 2024-03284 for the replacement of 6 windows and 4 doors. That these plans and documents be attached to this resolution to form an integral part hereof.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. I don't know, you don't need to add any further comments to that. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 29, des affaires nouvelles. Nomination directrice des services juridiques et greffières. Services juridiques et greffes de la ville. Monsieur Chamy, Councillor Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Un instant. Merci. Je propose que Madame Paul Geoffroy Beliveau soit nommée au poste de greffière et directrice des services juridiques et greffes, groupe de traitement 3, taux 2025, à compter du 4 février 2025 et conformément aux modalités prévues aux conditions de travail et rémunération des cadres et à la recommande salariale contenue au sommaire décisionnel 2024-25-21 et que Mme Paul Geoffroy Beliveau soit soumise à une période d'approbation de 12 mois.
Maître.
Maître, je m'excuse, maître. Pardon. I hope you accept my apology. And félicitations.
Donc, appuyé par Madame Gallery, dont des bonnes nouvelles pour nous autres, des bonnes nouvelles pour les résidents de Westmount. Donc, merci beaucoup d'être le chef de cette équipe. Donc, vous êtes ici depuis quelque temps, mais vraiment, merci beaucoup pour votre travail et félicitations. Donc, we need to vote. All in favor? Carried. Bravo.
Take a picture?
We can do one off. Lorene already got the photo. All right. Perfect. 29.2, c'est encore M. Chamy, le congédiement matricule 06121.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Westmount dismiss for cause employee number 06121, retroactive to December 20th, 2024, the date on which she was suspended without pay for investigative purposes.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Item number 29.3, which is also a new item. Contrat système de sécurité. Councillor Bostock.
I move that a contract be awarded to Allied Universal in the amount of $22,824.28, including the tax credit for the installation of surveillance cameras, that a maximum amount of $254,995. I feel like that number
Je vois qu'il y
is
a
wrong.
une erreur, là.
25 000, peut-être?
Oui, c'est ça, exact.
C'est 24 000. You take out the 5.
Oh, okay, 24 000, $24,995.57, that looks much better, including taxes, be allocated for this contract, all in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2024-2513.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Any further comments on that?
Glad it wasn't $254,000.
All in favor? Carried. And that brings us to our second question period. And if there are no questions, we will adjourn the meeting.
Nous avons des questions en ligne.
Oh, on a des questions en ligne. Je m'excuse. Well, first we'll go with questions in the House. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. My name is Jessica Winton. I have one quick question and then a longer one. The potholes along the boulevard are getting pretty bad to the point where my regular bus stop has been outright canceled. I was just wondering, is there a timeline for fixing larger potholes, like just in general?
It's ongoing, but if there is a specific area where we've had this in the past on Sherbrooke Street, where they will, if you let us know, if you write to assistance@westmount.org, they will ensure that that is taken care of immediately, and then the STM can be notified of that.
Great. And then secondly, I saw during the October 7th General Committee minutes that the city had discussed purchasing Mountainside Church for different uses.
I wouldn't say the city had discussed that. Well, I mean, we had discussed
member.
Mountainside Church, yes.
Yeah. Have there been any updates, because it said you would discuss with the owner of the building?
The owner has opened a file with the urban planning department and is hoping to pursue.
The housing developments that were outlined during his public consultation?
I think it's evolved. I think his application has evolved
Okay.
quite a bit since then.
Great. All right, thank you.
Just.
Councillor D'Amico, I think, wants to.
Yes, so on our website, we have a report of pothole or damaged sidewalk. So if you could, if it's going to
Okay.
be geolocalized.
Yeah, no
they'll-
worries.
They'll get to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Richard Dufour from Anwath Avenue. Again, making reference to general council meetings. This one from November 6, 2023, where there was a lot of discussion about the old train station. And I'm going to read from the minutes, so to be sure that I'm not making this up. It says here that the members of the committee wished to restore the old westbound station. They mentioned recruiting heritage conservation professionals to determine how they can reuse the building. Demolition is not an option. The restoration of the building must follow Parks Canada regulations and limitations. Elisa and Patrick mentioned a few building conservation options, and the execution of the project is foreseen in 2025. I'm just wondering where you're at with that.
So unfortunately, the train station is not on our capital works budget of 2025 because, as you can see, our list is extremely long and none of it is projects of that nature. But it continues to be a project that is very important, but it speaks to the volume of work that we need to do in the city and the volume of work that we need to do, in particular in our buildings, whether it be our public works yards or dealing with the incinerator or dealing with the train station. And simply put, we don't have enough money or capacity to do all of it. So unfortunately, the train station is not on this year's capital works budget, but it would be wonderful if it was on 26. And it's in a state of, it really is just bricks, right? There's no windows. The tunnel is filled with water underneath it. And so the inside walls, it's really like a shell, essentially. And it's got some zoning challenges, obviously, of what can go in there. But I think, largely the community is dedicated to the heritage preservation in the city and the heritage of our city. So I hope to see something in there at some point soon. Does anyone else want to comment on the train station?
I'll just add one point. Yeah, one point. So I believe that minute was from 2023, is that correct?
December 23, I think you
November 6, 2023, yeah.
Yeah.
About a year,
So
just a year and a bit ago, yeah.
The hope and the ambition at the time was that the next step would be an assessment of the building. And we did go through the steps of trying to solicit some quotes. And the quotes came in at a price that was prohibitively expensive, even to get to the next step. So that's why everything was pushed. That contributed to it being pushed off.
Sorry, the quotes to do an assessment or just to do the assessment?
Just to do the assessment. It was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we didn't have that money allocated for that purpose at that time. So that has a cascading impact of the project.
The second question, I had asked a few months ago what the status of Hydro Westmount was in terms of the city had put a request for consultants to put together a study or analysis, and apparently there were no takers, and I was told that they were going to go back out to try to solicit another engineering firm or whatever. Is that being done, or where's that at?
We've gone out a second time, so we have gone out twice for tenders on that. I don't know if Madame Monville has any more details on that, but it is proving to be a very difficult one to get expertise on.
Nobody wants to touch it? No. Okay.
But it is a very important file that needs to be, that we do need to deal with it in terms of, but we need that information. Is critical to the next steps of Westbound Hydro.
Okay. Thank you.
Merci. Next question, and then we'll move to questions online.
Bonsoir, good evening. Thomas Rollin, Clermont-Westmount. I have a very short question. While walking here, I noticed a garbage with a city sign on it, which said "Stop Illegal Dumping." And so that's the first time that I noticed such a sign on our city garbage. And so I was wondering if if the city has noticed any increase in terms of illegal dumping since the implementation of the new bylaw.
This is this is an issue that we have dealt with over the years. Certainly since I've been mayor, I know we have dealt with this issue. We often deal with it a lot in the summer as well, where people will leave, you know, significant or large residential garbage bags in public bins. So this is an effort to communicate about that. I'm not sure we have seen an increase, but I would have to check with I haven't been notified that we have seen an increase in the biweekly garbage. But it has been an issue in the past, and in particular in the summer and around parks.
So you would say that sign isn't related to the potential aftermath.
I would have to ask. I'm not sure which bin and when the sign has been put up. I know we've had signage like that in the past, but I'm not aware of a significant trend or increase on that.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have some questions online.
First question, René Feldman. Why was there no snow clearing on Friday, January 31st? The snowstorm was on Thursday, January 30, and finished on Thursday. The school zone priority zones were not touched on Friday. There was a post by the city that it would start on Monday, February 3rd. What was wrong on Friday? Why 4 days later? Today, February 3rd, is freezing rain on top of the snow piles.
Thank you for your question. I think you're probably asking about the loading of the snow as opposed to the plowing. So we do plow, obviously, immediately. Last week's snowstorm was kind of perfect, terrible timing in terms of how quickly it fell and the time that it fell, like just before rush hour and school drop-off and everything. And the roads were terrible on the hills for about an hour or two before they were able to clear everything. So I think you're talking about the loading, and the loading is obviously a significant operation that we do, and we do understand that it's annoying for residents because it piles up on the side, it piles up on the commercial streets, but we are loading now. We do have to time, if we know that we are getting a little bit more snow, it's much more cost effective to load it all at once. It's very significant cost to do a snow loading operation. So I think for the most part, we're pretty effective in our snow clearing. And the loading date is really analyzed and taken very seriously as to when we begin the operation, but it has begun.
All right, next question from Carol Christie Olsen. It's been a month since the deadline to submit online comments to LeMay's proposed plan for the Southeast Development Project. When should we expect to see the feedback? Where will it be posted, and how will it be presented?
So you should be able to see the feedback, I think, probably by the end of this week, and it'll be a summary of I believe. It will be a summary of the consultations, and this is what we had discussed, as well as there will be an annex that will have all the comments that were submitted online, but it will not have people's names or addresses or anything. There'll be no identifying factors in it, but the comments will be there. And it will be on our Engage Westmount site in our projects section.
All right.
And if you have trouble reaching it, you can certainly ask assistance or reach out to one of us.
Last question from Lynn Verge. How has the opposition to LeMay proposal for the Westmount Southeast redevelopment by renowned urban planners and architects been taken into account by Westmount City Council?
So we are hearing feedback from all sorts of people, and we are looking forward to sharing those results with the public. So thank you for your feedback. D'autres questions? No? Okay. Or do we have any other questions in the room? Otherwise, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Merci tout le monde.